Hi, R E M, REM. So I'm looking here at the CDs I own by the band known as REM. Um, would I say I'm a fan of REM? Well, yeah, to an extent, I guess. Yes, it's always strange when someone, well, do you like that band? It's not the kind of band if someone asks, "Well, do you like this music?" Or so name some bands you like. REM wouldn't be in the list of bands that I would name. They don't come to, but I do like a lot of REM stuff. And yeah, obviously I have one, two, three, four, six of their six CDs by them. So we'll go through and have a look at what I have and talk a bit about what I know about the band and yeah, try and go in chronological order of the releases. So this, actually no, this came out after Out of Time, but anyway, it doesn't matter. This is the best of REM. This was released in 1991, and I just learned this was only released in the UK, New Zealand, Australia, Brazil, and Chile. Because sometimes you see around another greatest hits collection of the same time period called Eponymous, I think it's pronounced, which both of them cover the first five albums, the IRS albums. IRS was their first record label before they signed with Warner for when did they sign with Warner? Green, may have been Green. Um, I'm pretty sure it was an independent label with major distribution. Um, and yeah, the first five. What is it? Let's have a look. Whoops. Murmur, Reckoning, Fables of Construction, Life's Rich Pageant, Document. Those were all in RS. And yes, Green is when they signed with Warner in 1988. So this is a collection of the greatest hits of the IRS years. They're kind of, some people might say they're underground years, or certainly before they were part of the mainstream. Um, but there's some good songs on this. I guess it depends on how you feel like early REM. I find some of their stuff of that period uh, to be not as well crafted as their later songs. But yeah, I don't know. Were they really going for kind of more of a radio friendly sound on their later albums? I don't know, but Radio Free Europe, it's a good song. Talk About the Passion, I like that song. What else we got here? Can't Get There From Here, I like that. Fall on Me. Uh, it's the End of the World as We Know It, of course, is maybe one of the first. So yeah, the End of the World as We Know It, the One I Love, were the two that were most famous from that period because they were from what Life's Rich Pageant, I'm pretty sure. Or was it Document? Okay, sorry, Document. Um, was that? I guess that's kind of considered to be maybe their breakthrough. But anyway, I'm kind of going all over the place here. Anyway, so the what I mentioned before, eponymous, which is basically the same concept as the best of from the IRS years that they released upon the outstanding popularity and sales success of Out of Time. But the track listing is slightly different, and there's alternative takes. Um, whereas this is just more the album versions straight ahead. So yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a fan to the extent that I'd want to or need to own all five of their earliest albums. If I came across them, I'd probably pick them up. But I think this is a good solution to that. So what's next? Out of Time. My version of Out of Time. These are all secondhand, by the way. My version of Out of Time, you can see, is pretty well. At least the case is completely cracked across the center here. That's pretty easy to replace. I got this for 50 cents, and I remember when I bought it, that was showing, the person who'd owned this most recently was using that as the front cover for, they put it in backwards or for whatever reason. So Out of Time came out in 1991. That year, 1991, which so many of the albums I've talked about on my channel over the last however many 9 months or whatever I've been doing this, come back to 1991, don't they? Excuse me. I remember quite a lot about this. When I say I remember, I was a kid. I would have been like 10 years old or something. But I remember I was conscious of its impact on popular culture, and as much it was played on the radio and on TV and in TV shows. Uh, and it just seemed to be around a lot. And the name REM became kind of like a household name, which it may have been in other countries beforehand, but I'd say certainly in New Zealand was Out of Time that pushed them fully into the mainstream. So we got radio song, Losing My Religion, of course. Low, Near, Wild Heaven, Shiny Happy People. I just watched on YouTube around this period. They were on Saturday Night Live. Obviously in the US, when a musical artist is promoting their album or is especially big, they'll often play on Saturday Night Live. And especially in the 90s, it's changed now. Saturday Night Live probably doesn't hold the same place in popular culture that it once did because of how everything has changed so much and everything is so diffuse, and we don't have this kind of one center of entertainment like we used to have with the television in the 90s and beforehand. But I don't need to. If you're an American, you don't need me to tell you this, obviously. Just from what I've read and heard, Saturday Night Live was the place for a musical act to play. It was kind of it was like a symbol of making it. Anyway, they did a version of Shiny Happy People with what's the girl from B-52s or the woman? Is it Kirsten or was the other one Kirsten? Hang on, Kate Pearson of the B-52s. And I specifically remember that song being released and being on TV a lot. And I would say for the first 20 years of that song's existence, I didn't really like it. Didn't hate it actively, but certainly wouldn't seek it out to listen to it. But now when I listen to it, and this is the same for a lot of music, it's like I hear it in a completely different way. And it's just, I love that song. I know a lot of people don't. I think it's corny and cheesy and stupid, but yeah, I don't know. I love the harmonies of it, especially with Michael Stipe and Kate Pearson, and I think Mike Mills does some vocals, a bit background as well. Anyway, what I was saying is on YouTube there's a rehearsal video of them. You can actually find quite a few rehearsal videos of bands on Saturday. I saw another one of Pearl Jam rehearsing Daughter in 1994, which was also cool. But anyway, this rehearsal video of Shiny Happy People, which has Kate Pearson in it as well, it's quite funny and interesting, and also I don't know what you call cringe because the dance that they're doing, Michael Stipe is in particular is doing with her. It's kind of like very white dancing in place dance that you can seek out and find on YouTube if you're interested. So anyway, huge album. See it everywhere for sale, in secondhand shops here. This is a very, this would have sold a lot in pretty much every country, I would say. But it's not something that is rare to find in secondhand shops. I've seen this around pretty regularly, actually. I'm trying to see how it's sold here. Okay, so it went 4 times platinum in the US, 5 times platinum in the UK, 2 times platinum in Switzerland. It only went gold in New Zealand. That's actually surprising. I thought it would have done more. But it's sold 18 million worldwide. See, I knew it was a big album, but even that's like I would have gone maybe more towards 10, around 10ish, but 18, that's pretty A huge album and a great album. Um, Next up, why is this not going back? Automatic for the People, which came out a year later, or more a year and a half because it was late. The Out of Time was early 91 and Automatic was late 92. So I guess it's a year and a half. So obviously doing that striking while the iron is hot type thing that you see, because most of the bands, those same 1991 bands that had breakthroughs in 91, like Nirvana and the Chili Peppers, and I guess you could say Metallica to a lesser extent, that kind of were relatively big before Black Album. But all those bands had kind of like career-defining albums released in 1991, and REM. All those other bands I just named, they didn't release an album the year later. So I think Nirvana would have been the soonest. They did In Utero 93. Metallica didn't do till 96. Chili Peppers didn't do till 95. Soundgarden did 94. Pumpkins did 93. So most were at least 2 years between the releases, 2.5 years, whereas REM really went for recording this pretty quickly after Out of Time had been released. And from the very little I've read about it, they actually had a lot of the songs already to go, but as they were finishing Out of Time, they had like, I don't know if it was like a leftover album, but certainly some of the songs had been written, and at least in the demo version. So Drive, in my mind, I should say, this has a much, especially with that song Drive. I think Drive was the first single of it. Was such a dour, downbeat, kind of quite depressing sounding song, and I felt it was a step more in that kind of that direction from Out of Time. Sideway to Sleeps Tonight, great song. Everybody Hurts. I still don't like that song. I that's too much of that, whatever you want to call it, that kind of like saccharine, or I don't even know how. Man on the Moon, that's again one of those songs. It was just everywhere when this was released, but with some time, I kind of came to appreciate it more. And Night Swimming is probably one of my favorite REM songs. Well, it's not probably, it is one of my favorite REM songs. And not just that, I'd say it's one of my favorite songs ever written. And that might be overstating it a bit, but I'm just saying, personally, to me, I adore that song. And I could listen to it a million times and love it the same way each time I listen to it. I love everything about it. It's quite a simple song, it's just that repeated piano throughout it. It's not like a lot of kind of a variation beyond that, but the lyrics and Michael Stipe's vocal delivery and just everything about it. It's also one of the songs that I guess is special in me and my wife's, the very, very beginning of our relationship. The first night, not the first night I met my wife, but kind of the first night we talked together a lot and deeply. This is before we were in a relationship. We kind of sat in a cafe once and like talked together for like 4 hours. Anyway, that song was on in the cafe, I remember. And my wife knows nothing and doesn't really care about music at all. But as we were talking, I was like, look, listen, they're playing Night Swimming. She's like, oh, what? And I said, I wrote it down on a piece of paper, REM Night Swimming. I said, when you go home, listen to that song, listen to the lyrics, how beautiful that song is. And she does know that song now. Now she recognizes, that sounds strange, she recognizes the song, but really, she is not a musical person. We're actually very, very different in that way. She can like music. If I put on a song and she's like, oh, that's a nice song, but she knows the bands I love. Like she knows I love Soundgarden and Boards of Canada and a few others. And sometimes she'll go, I'll be listening to like heavy metal. I'll be listening to like fucking, I don't know, Overkill or something like that. And and she'll go, oh, is this Boards of Canada? I'm like, what? How could you confuse those two? But anyway, that's fine. I didn't marry her for her musical ability, musical knowledge. But anyway, another great album. If I had to say which one I like, yeah, actually that's a hard one. I'd probably say I like Automatic for the People just for the fact that Night Swimming's on it. But as a whole, maybe Out of Time as an album entirety in its entirety, I like that a little bit more. Maybe. Now I'm thinking maybe Automatic for the People I like. I don't know. Yeah, it's actually very hard to say which one I like. Maybe a little bit more Automatic for the People. Obviously, I don't even know myself, so it's not really important how I rank these albums in my mind, is it? Then we get to 94 and they release Monster. All this time, in my mind at least, there's still kind of like Out of Time, Automatic for the People were kind of like a dual peak where they were kind of on top of the world. And for me, I don't know sales wise. I'm sure sales wise, Monster didn't kind of sell anything near what Out of Time sold, but okay, it sold 9 million, so it's half that. Still fucking massive, 9 million sales. But in my mind, they were still huge, and they were still everywhere. And that song, "What's the Frequency, Kenneth?" I remember everyone liked that song. I'm not saying everyone. I'm talking about my friends. I was like a 13 or 14-year-old kid, but I'm saying that yeah, in my cohort, everyone seemed to like that song. This album was like, from what I remember, and I haven't read anything in depth about this album at all, but it was meant to be like kind of their more return to rock and almost influenced by grunge sound. Although I wouldn't really say I can hear much grunge in it, but there is quite a lot more rock, maybe alternative rock, you'll say, without saying grunge. There's definitely some more alternative rock. And a lot of alternative rock bands cited REM as an influence. Even Kurt Cobain talked about how he liked REM. I wouldn't say I like this album as much as Automatic or Out of Time, but some good songs on it. Bang and Blame, Crush with Eyeliner, I Don't Sleep, I Dream. Like I said, What's the Frequency, Kenneth. Then, just like, well, not just like, but from again, what I remember, this came out 2 years later. This came out in 96, and the whole deal with this was that they wrote it while they were on the tour for this. I might be wrong. By this stage, I'm a little bit older. In 1996, I was 15. And, everyone in their teenage years, especially around that time, kind of goes through like a dark period. Dark doesn't mean, so dark in many different ways. It doesn't necessarily have to mean like, you're depressed or you're, doing, just kind of, I don't know. I can't even actually explain what I mean by that. But I kind of have dark memories of this album, and yeah, I don't mean like I was feeling bad or this album sounds bad. I like this album a lot. In fact, I like this more than Monster. And it has another of one of my favorite REM songs, track 5, Ebo the Letter. Again, quite different from some of their other stuff. A lot more kind of droney, that song. But hugely affecting. And when I think about kind of like, it gives me like chills when I think about that song. In the last kind of 2 or 3 years, so I love that song the first time I heard it in 1996. I also like the video of it. It's got this kind of strange video. From my memory, I haven't watched it for a while. Michael Stipe's like in a bus station, and they're like walking around some city, or he's in there's shots of some city at night. And for some reason, that kind of like it spoke to me, and I liked it at that age. In the last 2 or 3 years, I read the lyrics properly for the first time. And I won't say I understand what the lyrics are really about, but I like the way he delivers them. Very poetic delivery, Michael Stipe. Other good songs on this. I like Electrolyte. It's a nice kind of catchy, light little song. The Wake Up Bomb, Departure, Bittersweet Me. And what they say, I read this the other night because I was reading about this album. What did they say? The members of REM consider the recorded album representative of the band at their peak. So 91 through 96. Commercial, certainly. And I don't know how this sold. I don't think this sold anywhere near as many. This sold, actually, this probably sold about 4 million worldwide. But the band considered it to kind of be a representative of the band at their peak. And it also says fans generally regard it as the band's last great record before a perceived artistic decline during the late 90s, early 2000s. I absolutely agree with that. Maybe unfairly I agree with that, because I would say I have actually listened to not that much from, I'd say I listened to all of those albums, Up and the ones that came after. What was the one after that? Here we go. Up, Reveal, Around the Sun. Okay, I didn't listen to Around the Sun. Accelerate. No, I did listen to. What's the one? I'm trying to remember which ones. I did listen to Around the Sun. Accelerate and Collapse into Now. I didn't listen to those too much, and that's when they broke up. And I also have a greatest hits collection representative of their Warner Brothers years. Man on the Moon, Great Beyond, Frequency, Losing My Religion, Ebo, Orange Crush. That was 50 cents. What a fucking bargain, eh? So these all would have been $1 max. So I say some of them were 50 cents. But you do, like I said, you do see REM quite regularly out there in the secondhand shops because, like I said, there was a period there in the 90s, which is where all the albums I have come from, where they were genuinely one of the biggest bands in the world and they were selling albums in that way. And so, therefore, you find a lot of their stuff around secondhand even today. They broke up, and their breakup was very amicable, and they still have very good relation. And I watched on where did I watch it? There was a music, was it Song Exploder episode? I think I saw it on YouTube of Losing My Religion, which is very good. Just kind of breaks down the song and their writing process, and they kind of hear some of the mixes and the vocal mixes and stuff like that. And the way they talk about each other, especially the way Michael Stipe talks about his band members, you can just tell they're just, even before being band members, they just sound like very, very good friends. Like they love each other and they don't have any kind of negativity whatsoever towards their career and what they achieved or anything like that. And so that's always nice because it's very, very rare, isn't it? Anyway, that is my REM collection. Thank you.